With Kyle Dubas out the door as GM of the Maple Leafs, the team must find his successor sooner rather than later. Hey everyone, welcome into another SUN Sports Roundtable. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Sports columnist Steve Simmons and Toronto Sun Maple Leafs writer Terry Koshan. And guys, after the somewhat surprising news on Friday that the Maple Leafs parted ways with GM Kyle Dubas, the search is now on for his replacement. Steve, we heard President Brendan Shanahan mention someone with experience would be attractive for the position. In your mind, what kind of names jump out that would make sense in this case?
Well, right away, when you talk experience, the three people that come to mind for me are Brad Treliving, who was let go by the Calgary Flames, Stan Bowman, who was the former GM of the three-time champion Chicago Blackhawks, and Doug Wilson, who ran the San Jose Sharks for a number of years and did it very, very, very well. He was out of the game with some other issues for the last year or so, but wants to get back in, from my understanding. So those are guys that you could look at and say, those are experienced guys. They know how to do the job. If they may not be exciting names, but they're names of people of credibility, other than the Bowman issue on the side, which means he's not allowed back in the league without NHL approval.
Yeah, you know what? Listen. The thing I took out of the Shanahan news conference on Friday was this whole idea about experience. So then, what a bunch of us did was we included people that don't have experience who are up and comers in the NHL on our potential list. But having done that, I think it is going to be someone who's done it. At this point, I think the signs point to Brad Treliving. Of course, there's a process that has to happen, and I would imagine that Brendan Shanahan will be interviewing a lot of people. But my guess would be, and Steve, I think you agree from the sounds of it, that anybody out there, the Matthew Darces of the world, who are that next tier, the people who have been doing the assistant thing for a while, I don't think they're gonna be there may be consideration for this job, but someone of that ilk will not get it in the end. The Leafs need experience, period, to get them through what's going to be an awfully crazy 6 weeks. And Treliving, I think, would be the guy to do it. Whether it's a Bowman or a Wilson, if there's any way they could ever get a guy like Doug Armstrong out of St. Louis do that, I don't think that's possible. But I think it's that when this is announced, it's going to be somebody that we know well from having been in the game for a while.
What we don't know, and we don't know a lot, but what we don't know is there a GM? Is there a GM sitting there in whatever market who looks at the Toronto job and says, "Boy, I really like that one. Boy, I really like that kind of money. Boy, I really like," and then has an out or gets the possibility of getting out of his situation, and then contacts Shanahan or contacts the Leafs. That's the part you don't know. And Doug Armstrong's one of those kind of guys.
Yeah.
Good job, great guy, does it very well. Won a Stanley Cup. Won the gold medals. In hockey as an assistant. He knows his way around the NHL very, very well. But what I find interesting right now is that Brandon Pridham has been with the Leafs for 9 years?
Yep.
For the entire Shanahan time. And he's been a very important guy for the Leafs in that period of time. So if you're Shanahan right now, you must know whether he can do the job or not, or believe whether he can do the job or not. So to me, if you're going through all of the interview process and you're not giving him the job, that's what you're saying. I don't think you can do it.
Well, that's neither here nor there, really, Steve. He's the capologist, and if he continues on that, I think it's fine. The one issue that the Leafs have, no matter who they hire, is the clock. They have to get somebody. If we're, what's today, May 23rd? It's a Tuesday. If we're not talking about a new GM by the end of next week, I don't know. They got to. Shanahan wants to do this properly, but at the same time, the clock's ticking, and they have to get somebody in here to figure this out.
Terry, as we know, when a new GM comes in, that generally means a new head coach. What do you think this all means for Sheldon Keefe? And if he is gone, who stands out to you as potential successors?
Well, you know what? Just to get the Keefe situation, I feel bad for the guy, to be quite honest. I think he's a good hockey coach. I think he'll go somewhere and be a good hockey coach. And really what's happening right now is he's twisting in the wind. And he doesn't know what his future is. We can all assume that a new general manager will want his own person, but there are also general managers I've hired before that have kept the coach and see how that relationship works out. And perhaps somebody has watched Sheldon Keefe from afar and thought, I like what this guy has done with this team. And I don't think, from afar at least, that he's the reason why they haven't moved on in the playoffs. So, again, Steve mentioned, I think, Stan Bowman earlier. A guy like Joe Quenneville has that experience, but doesn't have the green light to coach in the NHL right now. Needs that, of course, from Gary Bettman to move on after the Kyle Beach situation in Chicago. So, but somebody, again, with that type of experience, I think this group could, if it's not Sheldon Keefe, as much as I think he is a good hockey coach, I think an experienced person has to come in and give this the group, whatever's left of it, the core four, a different way of guidance going forward.
The Stanley Cup final looks like it's going to be Paul Maurice versus Bruce Cassidy.
Yeah.
Both guys, veteran coaches who are in their first years in new situations with good hockey teams. And you're in that situation. You look around the league right now and you say to yourself, look what Pete DeBoer has done in Dallas. Look what Maurice has done. Look what these guys have done. The new coaches, but they're not new. And I think Brendan Shanahan would be interested in replacing Sheldon Keefe, which means the general manager coming in likely would have to have that same philosophy coming in. And yeah, I feel for Keefe because he's twisting in the wind, and that's not fair to do that to anyone. But right now, to say who a possible next coach is, until you know who the next GM is, you don't have a clue. You don't know who's tied to Quenneville or who's tied to Gerard Gallant or who's tied or who believes in any one person, or somebody's tied to Carberry or whatever. Yeah. So until you know who the GM is, you can't possibly know who the coach is.
And you know what? You mentioned Spencer Carberry there, Steve. There is a reason why he keeps interviewing for head coaching jobs. He's highly thought of. But again, it'd be interesting to me if Carberry is promoted with the Leafs, no matter who is the GM, because he knows the players and they know him, but it would still be a different viewpoint, fresh views and that sort of thing to work with this group. And he's been, of course, their power play guy for several years, and we know how well it's done. So there is someone there if they decide to go that way, but it's just a hunch right now. But I think it's going to be someone who has that NHL experience, like the guy they're going to get to be the GM.
Well, it should be a very interesting next couple of weeks for the Maple Leafs. Let us know your thoughts on the Leafs in the comments below. For Steve Simmons and Terry Koshan, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time on another SUN Sports Roundtable.